I never thought I would become the villain in my own marriage. I never imagined I would look into the mirror one morning and see a man I didn't recognize, a man who had shattered everything sacred, everything pure, everything he claimed to love. But that's exactly what happened. That's exactly who I became. And this confession, this story I'm about to tell you, is not meant to excuse what I did. It's not meant to make you feel sorry for me. It's simply meant to tell you the truth, the whole truth. Because for too long I hid behind lies, half-truths, and the comfortable illusion that somehow I could outrun my own guilt. My name is Daniel Matthews, and I betrayed my wife in the worst way possible. And somehow, against all logic, against all reason, against everything I deserved, she forgave me. Let me take you back to where it all began. Not the betrayal itself, but the life we built before I tore it apart. I met Sarah when I was 24 years old, fresh out of university, hungry to prove myself in the corporate world. She was working as an assistant editor at a small publishing house in London, and we crossed paths at a mutual friend's engagement party. I remember the exact moment I saw her, standing near the window, laughing at something someone had said, her auburn hair catching the light in a way that made my chest tighten. I know that sounds cliché, like something out of a film, but that's genuinely how it felt. Like something inside me recognized her before my mind even had a chance to process what I was seeing. I spent the entire evening trying to find an excuse to talk to her. When I finally did, I fumbled my words so badly that she laughed. Not at me, but with me. She had this way of making you feel comfortable even when you were making a complete fool of yourself. By the end of the night I had her number, and by the end of the month I knew I was going to marry her. We dated for 3 years before I proposed. Those 3 years were some of the happiest of my life. Sarah had this remarkable ability to find joy in the smallest things. A good cup of tea, a Sunday morning with nowhere to be, the first page of a new book. She made me slow down in a world that constantly demanded I speed up. She made me better. We got married in a small ceremony in the countryside, surrounded by family and a handful of close friends. Her father gave a speech that brought everyone to tears, and when she walked down the aisle toward me, I remember thinking that I had done nothing to deserve this woman. Nothing at all. I promised myself that day that I would spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of her. For a while, I kept that promise. The first 5 years of our marriage were beautiful. Not perfect, no marriage is perfect, but genuinely, deeply beautiful. We bought a small flat in North London, spent our weekends exploring the city, talked for hours about everything and nothing. When she got promoted to senior editor, I was prouder than I had ever been of my own accomplishments. When I landed a director position at my firm, she threw me a surprise party with homemade cake and champagne that cost more than we could afford. We were a team. We were partners. We were everything I had ever wanted. And then, slowly, things started to shift. It wasn't one dramatic event. It wasn't a single moment where I can point and say, "There, that's where it all went wrong." It was gradual. It was subtle. It was the kind of change that you don't even notice until you're already drowning. My career started demanding more of me. I was traveling constantly. New York, Singapore, Dubai, closing deals, managing crises, building a reputation as someone who could be relied upon. And the more I gave to my career, the less I had left for Sarah. At first, she was understanding. She knew how important this was to me, how hard I had worked to get here. She waited up for me when I came home late. She rearranged her schedule to accommodate mine. She made excuses for my absences to our friends, to her family. But eventually, even Sarah's patience began to wear thin. We started arguing. Not big, explosive arguments. Those might have actually been healthier. But cold, quiet disagreements that left more unsaid than spoken. She would ask when I was coming home, and I would give vague answers. She would suggest we take a weekend away, and I would find reasons why we couldn't. The distance between us grew so slowly that by the time I noticed it, it felt impossible to bridge. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself that once this project was finished, once this promotion was secured, Once this crisis was handled, I would make it up to her. I would be present again. I would be the husband she deserved. But the truth is, I was already drifting, and I didn't know how to stop. It was during this period of distance, this season of disconnection, that I met Laura. Laura Mitchell was brought in as a consultant on a major project my firm was handling. She was smart, confident, and seemed to understand the pressures of the corporate world in a way that Sarah couldn't. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Looking back now, I can see how ridiculous that justification was. Sarah understood pressure better than anyone. She ran an entire editorial department, managed dozens of authors, met impossible deadlines. But I had convinced myself that my stress was somehow unique, somehow more demanding, and that Laura was the only one who truly got it. The first few weeks were innocent enough. We worked late together, grabbed coffee between meetings, exchanged complaints about upper management. She made me laugh in a way I hadn't laughed in months. She looked at me like I was important, like what I had to say mattered. And in my exhausted, emotionally starved state, that attention felt like oxygen. I should have recognized the warning signs. I should have pulled back the moment I realized I was looking forward to seeing her more than I should have been. I should have told Sarah that I was developing feelings for someone else, not because anything had happened yet, but because I was teetering on the edge of something I couldn't take back. But I didn't do any of those things. Instead, I told myself that a little harmless flirtation wasn't hurting anyone. I told myself that what Sarah didn't know couldn't hurt her. I told myself lie after lie after lie until the lies became indistinguishable from reality. The first time Laura and I kissed, it was after a late-night meeting that ran until nearly midnight. We were alone in the conference room, packing up our notes, and she said something about how tired she was. I made a joke about needing an IV of coffee. She laughed, and then suddenly she was closer than she should have been, and I could smell her perfume, and before I fully understood what was happening, my lips were on hers. It lasted only a few seconds. When we pulled apart, we were both silent. I should have apologized. I should have said it could never happen again. Instead, I just looked at her, and she looked at me, and something passed between us that felt like permission. I went home that night and crawled into bed beside Sarah. She was already asleep, her breathing soft and even. I lay there in the darkness staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding so hard I was sure it would wake her. I felt like a stranger in my own body, like the man who had just kissed another woman was someone else entirely, and I was just a witness to his actions. But that wasn't true. It was me. It had always been me. And instead of confronting that truth, I buried it. Over the next several weeks, the affair deepened. What started as stolen kisses became late nights at hotels, secret text messages deleted immediately after reading, elaborate lies about work trips that never existed. I became an expert in deception, knowing exactly what to say, exactly when to say it, exactly how to make sure the truth stayed hidden. The worst part wasn't the logistics of the affair. The worst part was how easy it became to live a double life. I would leave Sarah in the morning with a kiss on the cheek, spend the afternoon with Laura, and come home in the evening as if nothing had changed. I compartmentalized my guilt so effectively that there were moments, horrifying, shameful moments, when I genuinely forgot that what I was doing was wrong. Laura never asked me to leave Sarah. She never gave me ultimatums or made demands. In some ways, that made everything worse. If she had pushed, if she had forced a decision, maybe I would have woken up sooner. But instead, we existed in this strange, suspended state, neither fully together nor fully apart, and I convinced myself that somehow this arrangement could continue indefinitely. Sarah, meanwhile, had no idea. Or at least that's what I believed at the time. Looking back, I can see the moments when she must have sensed something was wrong. The way she looked at me sometimes, searching my face as if trying to read words that weren't there. The questions she asked about work that seemed too specific, too probing. The nights she turned away from me in bed, not in anger, but in something that felt more like grief. She was waiting for me to tell her the truth. And every day I didn't, I was betraying her all over again. The affair lasted 4 months. 4 months of lies. 4 months of secret hotel rooms and hidden phone calls and looking my wife in the eye and telling her I loved her, while knowing that I was tearing our marriage apart with every word. It ended not because I came to my senses, but because Laura was offered a position at a firm in New York. She accepted without hesitation. It was a career-defining opportunity, and just like that, she was gone. We said goodbye in a hotel lobby, promised to stay in touch, and then she walked out of my life as suddenly as she had walked into it. I remember feeling relief, overwhelming, nauseating relief. The affair was over. No one had found out. I could go back to my life, go back to Sarah, and pretend that none of it had ever happened. For a few weeks, that's exactly what I did. I threw myself into being a better husband. I came home earlier, planned date nights, surprised Sarah with flowers for no reason. She seemed cautiously happy, like someone who wasn't quite ready to believe that the storm had passed. But she didn't question it. She just accepted my renewed attention with a gratitude that made me hate myself even more. I thought I had gotten away with it. I thought the guilt would fade with time, that eventually the memories would become distant and harmless, and I would be able to move on without ever having to face what I had done. I was wrong. The guilt didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger. It took root in my chest like a living thing, feeding on every tender moment between Sarah and me, twisting every happy memory into a reminder of my betrayal. I started having trouble sleeping. I would lie awake for hours, replaying conversations with Laura, imagining what would happen if Sarah ever found out. I became irritable, distant, snapping at her over minor things and then immediately apologizing with an intensity that confused us both. Sarah noticed something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what. She asked if I was stressed at work. I said yes. She asked if there was something she could do. I said no. She asked if I was happy. I said of course, and the lie tasted like ash in my mouth. The turning point came on a Thursday evening in late November. We were sitting at the kitchen table, eating dinner in comfortable silence, when Sarah put down her fork and looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. It wasn't anger. It wasn't suspicion. It was something deeper, something that looked almost like resignation. "Daniel," she said, "I need you to be honest with me." My stomach dropped. "About what?" "About whatever's been going on with you for the past few months." She paused, her voice steady but heavy. "Because I've been patient. I've waited for you to come to me. But whatever it is, it's eating you alive. I can see it. And if you don't tell me, I don't know how much longer I can pretend I don't notice." I sat there, frozen, my mind racing through 1,000 possible responses. I could deny everything. I could make up a story about work stress or health concerns or anything that would explain my behavior without revealing the truth. I could protect my marriage with one more lie, one more carefully constructed fiction that would keep the peace for a little while longer. But as I looked at Sarah, at the woman who had loved me for over a decade, who had built a life with me, who deserved so much better than what I had given her, I realized that I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep living in this prison of my own making. I couldn't keep looking at her and knowing that every moment of our marriage was built on a foundation of deception. For the first time in months, I told the truth. "I had an affair," I said. The words came out flat and hollow, nothing like the dramatic confession scenes in films. There was no music, no pause for effect, just those 3 words, hanging in the air between us like a physical presence. Sarah didn't move. She didn't speak. For a long moment, she just looked at me, and I watched as the meaning of what I had said slowly registered in her eyes. I saw the shock first, the disbelief, the desperate hope that she had misheard me. Then I saw the pain. It was like watching a light go out behind her eyes, replaced by something dark and devastated. "What?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "I had an affair, with a consultant at work. It lasted about 4 months. It ended when she moved to New York." I forced myself to keep talking, to get all the words out before I lost the courage. I know there's nothing I can say to make this okay. I know I've destroyed everything. But I couldn't keep lying to you. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine when I've been falling apart inside. Sarah pushed her chair back from the table and stood up. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like someone trying very hard to hold herself together. She walked to the window and stood there with her back to me, her arms wrapped around herself as if she was cold. Who is she? Her name is Laura Mitchell. She was consulting on the Henderson project. How long ago did it end? About 3 weeks. And you're only telling me now? I know. I should have told you sooner. I should have told you from the beginning. I should have. My voice broke. I should have been a better man. Sarah turned around. Her face was wet with tears, but her expression was frighteningly composed. Did you love her? That question cut deeper than I expected. I had asked myself the same thing countless times, and I still didn't have a clear answer. I don't know, I admitted. I thought I did, at times, but looking back now, I think I was just lost. I think I was running from something, and she happened to be there. Running from what? From myself, from our marriage, from the person I was supposed to be. I looked down at my hands. I'm not saying that as an excuse. There is no excuse for what I did. But you asked, and I'm trying to be honest, for once. Sarah was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat and tired. I need you to leave. Sarah, not forever, not permanently. I just need time. I need to process this without having to look at you. She met my eyes, and I saw something there that I had never seen before. A hardness that scared me. Please, just go. I nodded. There was nothing else to say. I packed a bag in silence, and 15 minutes later I was sitting in my car in the driveway watching our house recede in the rearview mirror. I spent that night at a hotel, unable to sleep. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, imagining all the things I could have said differently, all the ways I could have softened the blow. But there was no softening a blow like that. There was no gentle way to tell someone you had betrayed them. The days that followed were some of the darkest of my life. Sarah didn't call, didn't text, didn't respond to my attempts to reach out. I went to work on autopilot, barely able to focus on anything. My colleagues must have noticed something was wrong, but no one asked. I was grateful for that. I didn't have the energy to lie anymore. After a week, Sarah finally called. Her voice was different. Not cold exactly, but guarded. She said she wanted to talk in person. She gave me a time and a place, a coffee shop in our neighborhood that we used to go to on Sunday mornings. I agreed immediately, desperately grateful for any chance to see her. When I walked into the coffee shop, she was already there, sitting at a corner table with her hands wrapped around a mug. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her usually vibrant complexion pale and drawn. I sat down across from her and waited for her to speak. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said, not looking at me. About us, about our marriage, about everything. I know, I have too. I've been trying to figure out where it all went wrong, where I missed the signs, what I could have done differently. She shook her head. But then I realized, that's not fair. To myself, I mean. Because I didn't do anything wrong. You did. You're right, I said. You're absolutely right. And I'm not saying that to hurt you. I'm saying it because I need you to understand that I'm not going to blame myself for this. I spent the first few days wondering if I had pushed you away, if I hadn't been attentive enough, if there was something I could have done. There wasn't, I interrupted. Sarah, none of this was your fault. Not one single part of it. You were a wonderful wife. You are a wonderful person. I'm the one who failed. I'm the one who made a choice. A terrible, selfish choice, and I need to own that completely. She finally looked at me. Do you mean that? With everything I have. She nodded slowly. Okay, then I need you to answer some more questions. And I need you to be completely honest, even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. Ask me anything. What followed was the most painful conversation of my life. Sarah asked about the timeline, when it started, when it ended, and everything in between. She asked about the details, where we met, how often, what we talked about. She asked about my feelings, whether I had thought about leaving her, whether I had compared them to us, whether I had ever felt guilty in the moment. I answered every question truthfully, even when the truth made me sound even worse than she already thought I was. By the end of it, we were both crying. The coffee sat untouched between us, long since gone cold. I felt hollowed out, like someone had reached inside me and scraped out everything that made me human. But, at the same time, I felt something else. A strange, terrible relief. For the first time in months, there were no more secrets. Everything was in the open. Whatever happened next, at least it would be built on truth. Sarah wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I don't know what to do," she said. "I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I even want to try." "I understand," I said. "And whatever you decide, I'll respect it. If you want a divorce, I'll sign the papers. If you want space, I'll give you space. But if there's even the smallest chance that you want to try to work through this—" My voice caught. "I'll do whatever it takes. I'll go to therapy. I'll change careers. I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that I can be better. Because I know what I've lost, Sarah. I know what I threw away, and I would give anything to get it back." She stood up. "I need more time." "I know. But I'm not saying no." That simple sentence, "I'm not saying no," felt like a lifeline thrown into dark waters. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even hope exactly. But it was something. It was enough to keep me going. The weeks that followed were a strange kind of purgatory. Sarah and I weren't together, but we weren't apart either. We texted occasionally, brief, careful messages about logistics and practicalities. She said she was staying with her sister. I said I was still at the hotel. Neither of us mentioned the future. During that time, I did exactly what I had promised. I found a therapist, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, who made me confront things about myself that I had spent years avoiding. I examined my patterns, my tendencies, my excuses. I looked at the ways I had sabotaged my own happiness by prioritizing work over relationships, achievement over connection. I faced the uncomfortable truth that I had used Laura not out of love, but out of a desperate need to feel important, to feel alive, to feel something other than the numbness that had settled over my marriage. The therapist didn't let me off easy. She challenged me on every attempt to deflect responsibility, every attempt to cast myself as a victim of circumstances. She made me understand that I had made choices, deliberate, conscious choices, and that those choices had consequences. Healing wasn't about erasing what I had done. It was about accepting it, owning it, and committing to being different. 3 months after the confession, Sarah called and asked if we could have dinner. I arrived at the restaurant early, my nerves raw. When she walked in, something was different. She looked more like herself, still tired, still guarded, but with a spark in her eyes that had been missing for months. She sat down across from me and didn't waste time with small talk. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began, "about doing whatever it takes, about proving you can be better." I meant every word. "I know you did, and that's what scares me." She paused. "Because I want to believe you. I really do. But every time I start to believe you, I remember how many times you lied to me, how many nights you came home and kissed me goodnight like nothing was wrong. How many times you looked me in the eye and I had no idea who I was really looking at. I understand why you can't trust me. I wouldn't trust me either. But here's the thing, Daniel." She leaned forward. "I've been talking to a therapist, too, and she helped me realize something. Forgiveness isn't about trusting someone again. It's not about saying what they did was okay. It's about releasing the anger and the pain so that I can move forward, with or without you." I waited, my heart pounding. "I've decided to try." For a moment, I couldn't speak. "What?" "I've decided to try, to see if we can rebuild something. Not because I've forgotten what you did, Not because I've stopped being angry, but because underneath all the hurt, there's still something there. Something that feels worth fighting for. She reached across the table and took my hand. But I need you to understand. This is not a second chance. This is a final chance. If you ever lie to me again about anything, it's over. No discussions, no negotiations. Just over. I understand, I said, and I swear to you, I will never give you a reason to doubt me again. She nodded. Okay then. Let's see where this goes. What followed was the hardest year of my life, and also the most transformative. We started couples therapy, which was brutal in ways I hadn't anticipated. Every session forced us to confront the uncomfortable truths of our marriage, not just the affair, but the patterns that had led to it, the distance, the neglect, the unspoken resentments. We had to rebuild our relationship from the ground up, learning how to communicate, how to be vulnerable, how to trust each other in ways we had never trusted before. There were setbacks, plenty of them. There were nights when Sarah couldn't stand to be in the same room with me, nights when the anger and betrayal would resurface with a force that left us both exhausted. There were moments when I wondered if it was all worth it, if we were just delaying the inevitable, if we should accept that some wounds were too deep to heal. But we kept going. We kept showing up. We kept choosing each other, over and over again, even when it would have been easier to walk away. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. The conversations became easier. The silences became comfortable again. I started to notice moments of genuine connection. A shared laugh, a lingering glance, a touch that didn't feel forced. The love hadn't disappeared. It had just been buried under layers of hurt and betrayal, waiting to be uncovered. I changed, too. I scaled back at work, delegating responsibilities I had always insisted on handling myself. I started coming home at reasonable hours, spending weekends with Sarah instead of in the office. I became more present, more attentive, more aware of the small moments that make up a life together. I discovered that the validation I had been seeking from my career, the sense of importance, the feeling of being indispensable, was nothing compared to the quiet satisfaction of being a good partner. It took nearly 2 years before Sarah said she had forgiven me. We were sitting on the balcony of our flat one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. She was leaning against me, her head on my shoulder, and I was thinking about how far we had come when she spoke. "I forgive you," she said. I turned to look at her, not sure I had heard correctly. "What?" "I forgive you." She met my eyes. "I realized a few weeks ago, but I wanted to wait until I was sure, until it felt real. And it does. I'm not angry anymore, Daniel. I'm not scared anymore. I just feel at peace." I couldn't find words. All I could do was hold her, my face buried in her hair, my body shaking with the force of emotions I had been holding back for years. "Thank you," I finally managed. "Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for becoming someone worth not giving up on. I wish I could tell you that our story ended there, with that perfect moment on the balcony. But life doesn't work that way. Life is messy and complicated and full of challenges that don't fit into neat narrative arcs. In the years since that evening, Sarah and I have faced new obstacles. We've argued about money, about family, about the future. We've had misunderstandings and disagreements and moments of frustration. But through all of it, we've stayed committed to the promises we made, to honesty, to communication, to choosing each other even when it's hard. The affair left scars. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. There are still moments when I see a flicker of something in Sarah's eyes, a shadow of doubt, a ghost of the pain I caused, and it breaks my heart every time. I know I will spend the rest of my life earning back what I nearly destroyed. And I'm okay with that. It's a debt I'm grateful to be allowed to repay. I think about Laura sometimes. Not with longing or regret, but with a kind of distant sadness. She was never the problem. The problem was me. My inability to face my own issues. my willingness to seek comfort outside my marriage instead of doing the hard work of fixing what was broken inside. Laura was just a symptom. The disease was my own weakness. I've thought a lot about why I'm telling this story, what purpose it serves, whether it's appropriate to share something so private, so painful, so deeply personal. And I've concluded that if even one person hears this and recognizes themselves, if even one person who is teetering on the edge of the same mistake I made decides to step back, then it's worth it. Because I know what it's like to be in that place. I know the seductive power of escape, the intoxicating relief of attention from someone new, the dangerous illusion that you can have it all without consequences. But there are always consequences. Always, and they don't just affect you. They affect the people who love you, the people who trust you, the people who have built their lives around the belief that you are who you claim to be. I got lucky. Against all odds, against everything I deserved, I was given a chance to make things right. Sarah chose forgiveness when she had every reason to choose anger. She chose to rebuild when she had every right to walk away. Not everyone gets that chance. And even those who do often don't take it. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about straying, please stop. Turn around. Go home to your partner and have the conversation you've been avoiding. Tell them what's really going on. Work through the problems instead of running from them. Because the fantasy you're chasing isn't real. It's a distraction, a temporary fix, a bandage over a wound that needs proper treatment. And if you're listening to this as someone who has already been betrayed, I'm sorry. I'm so deeply, profoundly sorry. Not because I'm the one who hurt you, but because I understand, now, just how much damage that kind of betrayal causes. I understand the sleepless nights, the constant questioning, the way trust becomes something fragile and precious. I can't tell you what to do, whether to forgive or to leave, whether to fight for your relationship or to walk away. That's a decision only you can make. But whatever you decide, know that you deserve honesty. You deserve respect. You deserve someone who chooses you, fully and completely, every single day. As I sit here now, reflecting on everything that has happened, I'm overwhelmed by a complex mix of emotions. There's gratitude, of course. Immense, humbling gratitude for Sarah's forgiveness and for the life we've rebuilt together. But there's also shame. Shame that will never fully go away no matter how much time passes, no matter how many good choices I make. And maybe that's as it should be. Maybe the shame is a necessary reminder, a scar that keeps me honest, keeps me humble, keeps me aware of just how easily everything can be lost. I used to think forgiveness meant forgetting. I used to believe that if someone truly forgave you, they would eventually stop thinking about what you did, and things would go back to the way they were before. But I've learned that forgiveness is something else entirely. Forgiveness is choosing to release the anger while still remembering the wound. It's moving forward without pretending the past didn't happen. It's loving someone not despite their mistakes, but with full knowledge of what they've done and who they've become because of it. Sarah forgave me, but she didn't forget, and neither will I. That's the thing about betrayal. It changes everything. The relationship you have after is never the same as the one you had before. It can be stronger in some ways, more intentional, more honest, but it will always carry the weight of what happened. Every moment of connection is tinged with the awareness of how easily it all could have ended. Every expression of love is shadowed by the knowledge of what it took to get here. I used to resent that. I used to wish we could just move on completely, erase the past, start fresh. But now I understand that the weight is part of what makes it meaningful. The struggle is part of what makes the love real. We didn't just survive something difficult. We grew through it. And the growth, as painful as it was, made us both better. I want to be clear about something. I'm not telling this story to paint myself as a hero. I'm not the hero. Sarah is. She showed more strength, more grace, more courage than I could ever have mustered if our positions were reversed. I don't know if I would have been able to forgive her if she had done to me what I did to her. I'd like to think I would have, but honestly, I'm not sure. What I am sure of is that I owe her everything. Every good day we have now is a day I don't deserve. Every happy memory we create is a gift I have no right to accept. And yet, she gives them to me freely, generously, without holding back. That's the kind of person she is. That's the kind of person I'm trying to become. As the years have passed, I've had opportunities to reflect on what this experience has taught me about love, about trust, about what it truly means to be in a committed relationship. Love, I've learned, is not a feeling. It's a choice. It's 1,000 small choices made over and over again to show up for someone even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The feeling of love, the butterflies, the excitement, the rush of new romance, those things come and go. They're wonderful when they're there, but they're not the foundation. The foundation is the choice, the commitment, the decision to keep choosing your partner day after day, year after year. Trust, I've learned, is fragile. It takes years to build and seconds to destroy. Once broken, it can never be fully restored, only rebuilt, brick by painful brick. The new structure might be just as strong, maybe even stronger, but it will always bear the marks of the breaking. You can't unring a bell. You can't unsay words. You can't undo actions. All you can do is acknowledge the damage and commit to building something new. And commitment, I've learned, is more than staying. It's being fully present. It's investing in your relationship even when there are easier options. It's putting in the work, having the hard conversations, facing the uncomfortable truths. It's recognizing that your partner is not just someone who lives in your house, but someone who has trusted you with their heart, their dreams, their vulnerability. That trust is sacred. It should never be taken for granted. I took it for granted, and I paid the price. But here's the thing about prices. Sometimes, if you're incredibly lucky, you get the chance to pay them. You get the chance to earn back what you lost. You get the chance to prove, through action and consistency and time, that you've changed. I was given that chance, and every single day I wake up determined to deserve it. Sarah and I celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary last month. We went back to the place where we got married, that little venue in the countryside, and renewed our vows. It was just the two of us, plus our therapist who agreed to officiate. No guests, no elaborate ceremony, just the words we wanted to say to each other. I promise to be honest, always. To communicate, even when it's uncomfortable. To prioritize our relationship above my career, my ego, my fears. To never again take for granted the incredible gift of being loved by her. She promised to keep choosing me. To keep believing in my capacity to change. To keep building a future together, one day at a time. As we stood there, holding hands, I thought about everything we had been through, the early days of our relationship full of hope and possibility, the gradual distance, the unspoken resentments, the affair, the confession, the pain, the therapy, the slow, agonizing process of rebuilding. And I thought about what I would tell myself if I could go back in time, if I could sit down with the man who was about to make the worst decision of his life. I would tell him that no distraction is worth destroying what you have. I would tell him that running from problems only makes them worse. I would tell him that the temporary thrill of novelty will always fade, but the consequences of betrayal can last forever. I would tell him that he is not special, that the rules apply to him just like they apply to everyone else, that no amount of justification can make wrong right. But most of all, I would tell him to look at the woman sleeping next to him every night, to really look at her, to remember why he fell in love with her, what she means to him, what she has given up to build a life with him, to appreciate her before it's too late, because it almost was too late. And I will never stop being grateful that it wasn't. If you've made it to the end of this story, I want to thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for bearing witness to my worst moments and my slow journey back. Thank you for allowing me to share something so personal, so painful, so deeply important to me. I don't know what your story is. I don't know what struggles you're facing, what temptations you're fighting, what crossroads you're standing at, but wherever you are, whatever you're going through, I hope you can take something from what I've shared. Be honest. Be present. Be brave enough to face the problems instead of running from them. And if you've already made mistakes, if you've already hurt someone you love, if you're already carrying the weight of guilt and regret, know that change is possible. Redemption is possible. Forgiveness, both from others and from yourself, is possible. But only if you're willing to do the work. Only if you're willing to face the truth, no matter how painful. Only if you're willing to commit, fully and completely, to becoming the person you know you can be. I'm still on that journey. I will be for the rest of my life. But for the first time in years, I'm okay with that. I'm at peace with the work because I know what I'm working toward. A love that's been tested and survived. A relationship that's been broken and rebuilt. A life that's been shattered and put back together, piece by painful piece, into something new and beautiful. My name is Daniel Matthews. I betrayed my wife in the worst way possible, and somehow, against all odds, she forgave me. I will spend every day of the rest of my life proving that her forgiveness was not misplaced. That's the least I can do. That's the only thing I know how to do. And it's enough.